Well, for Flying Pig and Queen Bee Virtual Week, we are so thrilled to have Diego Estrada with us, long distance runner with the Asics team. And Diego, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate your taking the time to kind of help us kick off Flying Pig and Queen Bee weekend here in Cincinnati.
Well, hi everyone. Hope everybody's doing good. And yeah, of course, we're all adjusting to this new normal. So I hope everybody's in good spirits, and I hope we enjoy this virtual one.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your background before we kind of jump into this virtual world of running that we're in now. So you started running when you were in high school. What was it that really attracted you to the sport of cross country?
You know, I'm not an athletic person. So when I was a freshman, we had a requirement to join either a sport or a club. And football was going on, so I figured I wasn't going to cut it. I was about 100 pounds, 5'8". So I was like, okay, it's either student body or cross country. So I said cross country should be the easiest. And I gave it a go, and I was immediately hooked on it. My first actual race that I attended, I didn't compete. So I was, in the sense that I was a spectator, I was able to absorb the sport for what it was rather than being in the moment, actually seeing it from a spectator point of view. And then I got hooked, and here I am today.
Well, you certainly have made your mark in the sport. In 2012 in the Olympics, you know, I look at all the races that you have under your belt, USATF. One thing that the Asics guys said to me when we were setting this up, he said, talk to Diego. He has run every length of an event that you guys offer, and that includes a 5K, 10K, half marathon, and marathon. You've done them all. And usually when you talk to a runner specializes in one, maybe two events. What is it about all the different links of events that really have brought you back into running time and time again?
I think it has to do with being a human. You know, like you don't know what you're good at, so you have to experiment with it. And of course, when it comes to the marathon, I see it as at least for a competitive distance runner, not an ultra runner, the marathon is the ultimate test. So that always caught my attention, but I've had some struggles with it. And then when it comes to the shorter stuff, that's just always fun. You can run a 5K every other week or so, sometimes even twice a week. It just depends on the schedule. But, you know, I'm just addicted to the sport, and anything that I can get my hands on, I'll do. And of course, I like to win. So it's just about trying to figure what I can do, or more or less what I could be good at.
Right. Well, one stat that really jumped out at me, in 2015, it was the seventh fastest American half marathon, just under an hour and 1 minute. Take me back to that day. I mean, that's an amazing time. Was it just one of these days that it was your day and your race?
You know, to this day, I think that's the highlight of my career. I think that I didn't anticipate for that to happen. We trained for something similar to that, but the initial goal in December, I remember it was about December the 2nd or 3rd. Our goal was to just go under 63 minutes, and I wasn't too excited about it. I figured that being a U.S. championship, I needed to run around 61:30 to win it. So that day, I think it was just more that I had no expectation, yet I wanted to prove a point to my coach, Coach Viejo, that I was actually good at the roads, because I wanted to move up to the marathon, and he refused to allow the transition. So that was more like my first opportunity to just rip one and let him know that I'm ready for it. And I just still remember that I got to mile 9, and it just felt so easy. My last mile was the fastest of the race, and I remember looking down at my splits and going like, geez, last mile was 4:27. It just felt so easy to me. And of course, you imagine that it's all uphill from there. And I wish I could bottle that moment, because till this day, it's probably the most amazing feeling I've had in terms of being a competitive athlete. And it's hard to top that. And I've dealt with some blows here and there, injuries or whatnot, and I haven't gotten quite to that level. And it's just hard to look back that it's been 5 years since that moment. And, you know, we're just trying to get there again. But it's one of those that I'm sure a lot of the people listening remember setting a personal best and wondering like, man, I could have gone 5 minutes faster, but it just didn't hurt. But I figured that I was going to hit that wall later on the marathon, but it just never came. And it was just one of those. It just one of those weird moments where you can't explain what happened.
Well, that's awesome. It's certainly something you can be proud of. What is it about the sport that keeps you in it? You mentioned injuries and, you know, some of the setbacks of getting back to the Olympics and things like that. What keeps you working? What keeps you training?
You know, I'm turning 31 in December. So once I went over to 30, I was realizing as an athlete that I'm getting older. And while it sounds young, it's when you're competitive, 35 maybe, that's around your prime in the marathon. 28 to 30, that's your track prime. And I just figured that I'm running out of time. So I want to figure this out. And more than anything, it's hard. I'm very competitive. And running is one of those events where you don't rely on a team. You do have your personal team on the side, but when you're competing, it's one-on-one. And I think it's weird, but the older I get, there's no other way to phrase it. I'm not a big, huge fan of the workouts, the easy runs, but it's that competition that just gets me out of bed. Just the idea that I'm going to go to the U.S. Championships and finish fifth. It's a hard pill to swallow. So it just makes you keep grinding. And I don't know, I'm just an addict.
And a lot of people are hooked on running, just as you've said. The thing is, you talked about the competition and doing the events. We are in this virtual world of running now when there isn't a physical start line. There isn't a date necessarily that people are training for. How do you keep yourself motivated with training and going out and running during this time that we're doing a virtual event?
I like to say that I'm superhuman and everything has gone well, but just like everybody else, I went through my little slump of some pandemic depression. And back in May was when I was like, I need to start thinking about next year. So I shut it down and decided to just refocus for 2021. So with that being said, I realized that I tried getting myself going, and the only thing I had to look forward to were these virtual events. And I'm not beating anyone when I'm doing this. And even so, I'm sweating the details. I'm like, well, I could get jazzed up for this, but then if I run a solid time, what am I going to get for it? On the track, at least, because that was the focus for this spring, to try to qualify for the U.S. team in the 10,000. But then as things go on, you realize that you need to be disciplined and set up a schedule. So in order to get through this, I've just been kind of more diligent about setting up a time. If it's 8 a.m., I make sure that I hold myself accountable. And it's just about building that routine and enjoying the little victories. Like I'll set up a little time trial on my own. And even though it's not a personal best, I'll get excited that I can track my progress. And sometimes I'll just go for a really single trail, ultra style type of long run and just lose myself out in the woods and just let it be. Trying to enjoy the sport for what it is again. I think if anything, this pandemic is taking the mundane out of my training. I have the freedom to go out there and just play with it. There's nothing to do. There's no way to ruin this right now.
And a lot of people are, as you said, that kind of pandemic slump. They're trying to get themselves motivated to get out there. And that was some really good advice to kind of set your own schedule and make your own goals. I mentioned that you run with our friends at Asics. For someone who is maybe using this time to get back outside and walk, start running again, really get into an exercise routine, since they keep telling us it's a good thing to be outside. What kind of advice do you give folks who are just starting running and walking, or maybe starting it up again after being on the couch for a while? What kind of advice do you give those folks?
I think it's easy to see running as a simple thing that, I'm just going to go for a 2-mile run, but just think about it as weightlifting. I know that a lot of people will do core or push-ups or something. Just think of the feeling you get the day after doing 20 push-ups in one hit, or going to the gym and lifting for the first time. Running is the same. You're not going to feel great the next few days. So the goal is to start out slow. So maybe jog a minute, walk a minute, or if you're a little more advanced, start low and go half a mile, walk a quarter mile, and so forth. Like the thing is that for all of us that are just been kind of taking this unexpected break in between of our daily routine and have lost motivation, you don't want to get back into it and force yourself to love it and enjoy it. You want to learn to gradually build yourself back up so you can enjoy the process and see running for what it is, because running is very enjoyable. It's not a punishment. So if you force yourself that, oh man, I got to be running 20 miles a week on the first week, for a lot of people that might be a lot. Maybe for you it isn't, but if you force it, if you just force that into your life, you're going to turn it into a punishment. And right now we're at the point of our lives where we got to find the positive in everything.
Next goal for you for running?
Well, the immediate goal is just to get fit enough to be able to get on the track. And unfortunately, I missed my ticket to get on the marathon team for the U.S. So now that that's on the pass, my eyes have turned into the track. So I'll be running a bunch of laps soon.
Awesome. Diego Estrada, best of luck, and thank you for being with us as we kick off our Flying Pig and Queen Bee virtual week. Take care.
Thank you.